will the Vikings turn their season around? Right now they're 0-2. And they honestly haven't looked very good. The Eagles ran all over them. And it was like they couldn't stop it. Like they knew it was coming and they couldn't stop it. I don't know what the defense was doing. Like literally, like Flores, like, what are you doing? They have to work on ball security. 3 fumbles and an interception. They have turned the ball over 7 times in 2 weeks. Their wide receiver core is still elite, but Cook was not efficient last year, but it just proves time and time again that Madison is not Alexander Madison is not Dalvin Cook. And I just feel like they need some juice back there. Their O-line is in shambles. They just signed Dalton Rinser. I probably said that wrong, but I don't know. Like Kirk is showing that he's worth the money, but this team just does not feel together.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, my thing was coming to the season, bro. Is like, look, we were looking, and I've been saying, and we've been saying, the Vikings were probably in tune for regression for multiple reasons.
Right.
But, and as we said last week, we're going to keep saying it. It's like, I don't want to keep addressing it, but I'll keep addressing it until it's not relevant anymore. But here we are again, right? Another close game. Oh, another 1-possession game, right? And that was the thing, is you can't live and die by the close games. And now they're dying by them as they were living by them last year. It's kind of just how life is a lot of times.
Right.
If you were, you're getting by on something, you'll get exposed by it, right? That's exactly what's happening. And you said too, again, we're in the era where, and I ride very heavy on this. Having the star running back or anything is not super important when it comes to like necessarily like making runs or whatever. But as we can see, it still has a big impact on certain teams, and the Vikings are one of those teams where they lost their guy. And I'll say, I thought Madison was going to be able to be a very like, I don't want to say like, I don't know the right word, but like a similar replacement. Obviously, they're missing Dalvin heavy. And side note, as we see, Dalvin's struggling a lot over there in New York, and it's like that's a whole separate situation where he's not, his ball security is terrible too.
Yeah.
Weird situation over there. So I guess either way, it would have probably not ended up working out with the running back situation. But regardless, here we are, and the bottom line is, the Vikings defense is suspect. But again, against the offense like the Eagles, it's tough sample size because then again, week 1, it was like they looked a lot better, and it's like I still don't know how I feel about the Bucs offense because back to the whole sample size thing, it's just we're still at a weird point of the year. But
you don't really see like teams until like week 4 or 5. Like you start to get really an idea of what they're going to be.
No, yeah, and the main thing too, I wanted to address the 100% I agree with, like you were saying, is look, we're at a point where the Vikings are proving very much so that the turnover margin is really the main thing that wins and loses you games because you can have as good of an offense as you want if you're giving their team possessions more than you have possessions. It's usually it's just a tough uphill battle. And they for 2 weeks now, they're 0-2. So tough situation. And to answer the question though, I do think that they have a very good chance to round out at 2-2, and kind of like make things really go uphill from here. And I think this is where the direction hinges on, because you either win these next 2 and feel good about the year, or you're sitting at 1-3 at a really disappointing vibe considering how the last year started and last year finished. And I think a lot of questions are going to start being asked about Justin Jefferson, et cetera, et cetera. And they're tough questions around Kirk. And, the Vikings know the pressure's on. There's just no other way to put it. The pressure's really on to win these next 2.
Yeah. So Dangerous even says in the chat that the Vikings need a new back in line. And that's pretty much kind of what we were saying is it's just brutal back there because you have such a good receiving core. But if like Kirk is not the most mobile guy, so having him move around is not going to be a thing. Like he's not going to be escaping the pocket. Like he can run when he really needs to, but that's not going to be a thing. So, going kind of over to the Eagles side of things, something that I have noticed through these first 2 weeks is like they play well enough to win, but you can just feel like the shakiness of the team. And, I was really thinking about this because I was watching the Colts. We watched every game and, I was looking at the Colts and I was looking at the Cardinals even, and you can see that their teams are just so put together. Like they're executing, right? And like people were hating on Gannon, and I even threw a few. I mean, I think everyone was throwing shots after that video was.
I was.
But it's like, I like Nick Sirianni, but that team just doesn't feel the same. I think that O-line is so strong and their defense is so good that they can like overcome it. But I think that's something we need to watch throughout the year is, okay, well, maybe they're not going to dominate like they did last year. I just think that's possible because of the coaching changes. Jalen Hurts is still good, but I think it's very clear that Steichen was running the show with the offense. There's an offensive coordinator problem in Philly. And maybe it's just the learning curve, but to me, it just did not look good. They were able to run the ball over defense. I mean, like DeAndre Swift was hooping, Devonta was hooping, and you can't stop that little sneak they do. But it's like, I don't know. I feel like in games where they play like elite talent, the offense is actually going to struggle this year.
Well, no, and I was going to say, no, 100%. I do agree. It definitely, it's not the same as last year. But on the other hand, I think I'm looking at it much more like this, where it's like, look, it is very hard to come and when you already are coming off of the Super Bowl appearance and loss, right? I mean, tough enough. Take two new coordinators, have to, get everybody reacclimated in a new system, get everybody refocused. You know what? And come out swinging 2-0. It's tough no matter what. They've done it. I'm going to look at it where it's like, that still is, they've gotten the job done. It's not as pretty as maybe, we expected, but it is what it is. And two, you know what? Yeah, the past game is definitely not as pretty as it was. But I think that's, like I'm saying, Jalen's still getting used to it. I think he'll get more and more in rhythm.
Yeah.
But the run game looks great. And you know what? That's the main thing you want to look great, because when the run game's going, you can make everything else get going. If the run game's not going, as we've seen with a lot of teams, it does not matter. You will struggle, right? It's just how it is. And you can also turn out possessions where you're chewing the clock. You love it. And two, with the Vikings, I just want to add, I mean, it's also much easier to run the ball in the Vikings when they have safeties in the box 90% of the game. And your whole line is just pushing them. Like, man, you got to adjust sometimes, like you're saying about Brian Flores. But it is what it is, right? Game's already over with. We move forward. But the bottom line is, too, I mean, the Eagles, obviously, learning curve type of situation. But I do think they'll get back into the standard. And two, another point I just wanted to add, like we were talking about before the show, and it's not like it's even something crazy to follow, but I just think it's crazy that this is even a situation we have to discuss.
AJ Brown.
But the thing with AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, right? You'd think like, oh, here we are seeing like I don't even want to say the Devontae Smith like full out breakout, because it's like we knew this was going to happen. We knew that he already had a super talent. He's just playing with another super talented receiver. But it's like right now with AJ Brown, maybe not exploding out the gates as much as you would have expected, or maybe Eagles fans would have expected. I figure you'd be like, all right, we're winning games. Who cares? Like, I'm going to get in rhythm and we're going to figure it out. And just that doesn't matter. It's about the team. No, here we are having to discuss that it doesn't matter that all these things are good and in place, that he wants the targets. He said he's not getting targets. And I get it. He wants to impact the game. He feels like he can impact the game, right? It comes from a place of wanting to help the team. But you know what? Again, they were winning the game. They played good. And you know what? It is what it is. I get it. It's just, it is just alpha personalities clashing, and it happens. I'm just saying, it just seems unnecessary when everything's working as well as it's been working and you're trying to repeat a Super Bowl appearance, try to get a job done this year. I just feel like it's just kind of a tough look, as I'm sure a lot of people agree with.
But see, this is where I'll disagree. Like he got 10 targets last game. He only got 6 this game. But I feel like, remember what that kind of like feeling I was talking about where they don't feel like put together all the way? He may feel that. And if he had I think Steichen was a great play caller last year. If he feels that play calling is not up to his standard or their standard, and he is suffering because of it, I understand where he's getting upset. I don't think he handled it the right way, and he came out and apologized. But my thing is, at the end of the day, if it's remember Mac Jones last year with Matt Patricia? He knew that he was not being played at the level he should be played. And I feel like that is kind of similar to maybe how AJ Brown felt. And like I said, I could be overestimating how bad the play calling was, and it's a new offensive coordinator. But I think Sirianni even could tell. You could tell he was frustrated. So I don't know. I'm interested to see how the Eagles season plays out, because like I said, I think that we're going to see them in some pretty interesting spots versus elite teams.
No, for sure. And to your point, bro, it does. It comes with the territory of, I think, the expectation. And again, he wants to play really well. I don't think it comes from I need a ball. I think like you're saying, it comes from he wants to help them win. He wants to win. He wants the standard to be as high as it was last year.
Yeah.
I think it comes from that place. And I do think, again, I don't think there's anything. I'm not worried about the Eagles. I think, if anything, like I'm saying, it's a good thing they're 2-0, because you're at a point where you're struggling out the gates, learning new things, because it's a whole new system on both sides of the ball. 2-0. It is what it is.
2-0 is 2-0, and the Vikings are 0-2. Are you ready to move on to the next game, or you got anything for this? All right.
Well, I was going to say, if anything, just last thing, but Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, the new defensive duo in town. And just if you don't know that they're the new defensive duo, get in tune. But